topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Churchill said, "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." Kevin Hallinan believes that certainly applies to business. Welcome to Winning Business Radio, here at W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. And now, your host, Kevin Hallinan.
Thanks, everybody, for joining in once again. I'm Kevin Hallinan, and welcome back to Winning Business TV and Radio on W4CY.com. We're streaming live on Talk4TV.com, and of course, we're on Facebook, and that's at Winning Business Radio, and we're available after the live show in podcast form wherever you get your podcasts. That's YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple. Again, everywhere you find podcasts, we are there. The mission of Winning Business Radio and TV, as regular viewers and listeners know, is to offer insights and advice to help people avoid the mistakes of others, right? To learn best practices, the how-tos, the what-not-tos, the what-tos, to be challenged and hopefully to be inspired by the successes of others. Those are consultants, coaches, advisors, authors, founders and owners and entrepreneurs, people with expertise. But, virtually every successful person I've ever had a chance to talk to has had some form of failure in their lives and careers. So I say it every week, while we all have to get our knees skinned once in a while, I'm driven to keep those scrapes from needing major surgery. Let's endeavor to learn from history so we don't repeat it. I've spent the better part of my career equipping businesses to grow, and those are from solopreneurs to small and medium-sized companies, all the way up to the Fortune 50. I've seen some of those companies win, and to varying degrees, I've seen some fail. I've had the opportunity to rub elbows with some of the highest performing people around, and frankly, with some who probably should have found other professions. In my own businesses, I've had lots of success, but some failures too. So I like to think I've learned a lot from those experiences. So of course, you're going to hear from me, my opinions and insights. But more importantly, you're going to hear from those experts that I referred to today. No exception. My guest is Gregory Vetter, Innovator, Disruptor, and author of Undressed. Gregory Vetter is a well-established innovator and disruptor in the clean food movement, the oldest of the Vetter brothers. He had the brilliant idea of launching Tessemae's after being inspired by his mother's wildly popular homemade dressing recipe. What Greg knew, and the American consumer base was soon to discover, was that the idea would soon resonate wildly and give rise to an entirely new food category. Greg and his broader family, primarily brothers, Matt and Brian, cultivated the business and in a mere 5 years translated their vision into becoming the #1 organic salad dressing brand in the refrigerated space. The emergence of Tessemae's paved the way for clean manufacturing on a mass scale by virtue of inventing the only gum-free dressing bottling process. Ultimately, that manufacturing process led to the creation of the fresh condiment category, and similarly, the first Whole30 approved bottled dressings and condiments in the nation. With the wind clearly at their back, Greg and his brothers launched Alta Fresh Food Company, and that has since pioneered a better way to get great tasting salads to the masses through their innovative master kitting process and breakthrough R&D team. After their triumph as Sam's Club Supplier of the Year, resulting from their master kitting process, Alta was propelled to the forefront of the fast food solutions industry. More recently, Greg elected to take his lessons learned from his sustained success in the food industry and launched Homegrown Brand Accelerator. Homegrown was developed with a singular purpose in mind: to empower the next generation of brands by making the playbook available to whomever had the desire to build the next great American brand. In addition, he's authored the best-selling book, Undressed, the unfiltered story of my failed American dream and how it led to success. I love that title, Greg. Winner of Inc. Magazine's Entrepreneur of the Year Award, Inc. Magazine's 35 Under 30, EY Entrepreneur of the Year finalist, TEDx Talk speaker, Nielsen Design Impact Award for Packaging, and Sam's Club Supplier of the Year. Greg spends time with his wife and 4 kids on their farm in West River, Maryland. He holds a bachelor's in business management from Washington College. Greg, welcome to Winning Business Radio.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. I appreciate you taking the time. So I want to go to your background a bit as I like to do on this show. Tell us, where you grew up, and well, actually, start with wife and kids. Tell us about your family.
Met my wife in college at Washington
Nice.
College.
Hmm.
So, people are like, "Oh my God, how do you stay married to such a wild guy?" And she'll say, "Well, you should have seen him in college." So I met Genevieve in college, and we have
Nice.
4 beautiful babies, 14, 13, 11, and 9.
Mm,
2 girls, 2 boys, and they're all active in sports and wonderful human beings, and
nice.
a pleasure to be around. And then we have a bunch of dogs and Texas Longhorns and some alpacas and some
Wow.
fainting goats and some
Wow.
chickens. So we're getting it done over here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, we have 4 also. They're a little older, but 2 and 2 as well. So that's fun. All right, tell us where you grew up and what it was like to have grown up there.
Annapolis, Maryland.
Hmm.
Grew up in Epping Forest, swimming in the Severn River,
Hmm.
and went to public school. So Rolling Knolls, Bates Middle, and Annapolis Senior High School. And it was great. Normal, wonderful childhood full of getting in trouble and trying to figure out the world. And my primary sport that I chose was lacrosse. I played a bunch of them. And my dad's from Southern Ohio, so he had never even heard of the sport before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was amazing. I mean, it was a great outlet for my aggression. I played defense, and so I liked whacking people. And I ended up going to college to play, which was really fun, and then ended up playing professionally for a couple of years. And the next thing I know, I'm in the salad dressing business.
That's very cool. Yeah. I mean, it's very sexy. I'm sure it's what you wanted to do when you were 8, right?
Right.
All right. So why did you choose Washington and a business management degree?
That's funny. Well, I chose Washington College because I did not really care in high school as much as I should have.
Mm.
And I got recruited by a bunch of kind of big, smart D1 schools that I could not get into without taking a post-grad year, which I didn't know what that was, and neither did my parents. And so Washington College said that they would get me in and I would start as a freshman. And that seemed like a win-win to me. And so I went to Washington College, and wild experience, exposed to great amounts of wealth, exposed to kind of like the concept of tradition, which was really interesting. And it was an amazing experience for me to come into the man that I would eventually be. And I did that through sports primarily, but also just kind of trying to figure out the world on my own, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life after college. Being exposed to really kind of wealthy families and seeing what's possible really piqued my interest and curiosity. And so I started interviewing all of the dads on my lacrosse team.
That's fantastic.
To figure out how did they make their money. And so I would just, at tailgates be like, "Hey, Mr. So-and-so. So like, talk to me about living in Darien, Connecticut. How did you do that? What's going on there?" And so some were very complicated and beyond my scope of what I thought was possible for me at the time. Someone was talking about being a hedge fund manager, and, that I wasn't going to be doing that. But then others seemed realistic, which was, one guy just kind of like bought and sold debt. I was like, I didn't even know you could do that. And another guy was in commercial real estate. I was like, what does that mean? They're like, hey, you either sell buildings or you buy buildings. I'm like, okay, I understand that. And so it was interesting because it showed me that the wealthy were not magic. And so I was like, okay, so now I'm curious because I'm a very competitive guy. I'm very competitive in athletics. If I put my mind to something, I'm willing to sacrifice anything to get it. I'm very focused. I can just grind until the end of time. And so now it was really a matter of like, well, where can I direct my energy to potentially put myself in a situation long-term where I can potentially be successful? And so, I started trying to figure that out. And the next thing I know, I'm selling insurance over top of a bodega looking over a cemetery.
Again, very sexy business. You should, others should try it out.
Exactly. And I'm just cold calling all day.
Yeah.
I'm in the cubicle by 6:30.
Yep.
I'm cold calling until people stop picking up in the evening. And now I ended up making it a game, getting very competitive with myself about it, closing a couple large customers. And that brought me to, again, being competitive. I went to the owner. I'm like, hey, I brought in 3 of the largest customers we have. I'm only 25 years old. I'd like to be a partner. And he was just like, no, that's not happening. You're never going to be a partner. You make enough money for your age. That's the end of it. And in that moment, I realized that I was not in control of the future. And so I started thinking about, okay, well, what am I going to do? I know I can work hard. I know I can call. I know I can go to a meeting and close it. What does that mean for me long term? And so every day at lunch, I would go home with a journal next to me, and I would stand on my head in the dark waiting for an epiphany. And one did not come. But I would then go downstairs and I'd make myself lunch. And then I'd go back to my cubicle and I'd cold call all day. And one day I walked downstairs to make myself a big salad.
I love this story. Keep going. Yeah.
And to make myself a big salad with protein on it. And this 2-liter bottle of salad dressing that my mom had made for me was missing. And you don't misplace a 2-liter bottle of salad dressing. So I'm looking everywhere for it.
Especially one that your mother made.
Exactly. And I'm looking everywhere. Every cabinet is open. Every drawer is open. I cannot find this stuff anywhere. And I call my wife and I'm like, hey, did you take the salad dressing to work? She's like, no, I didn't take the salad dressing to work. Why don't you open your eyes?
Exactly. Yeah.
And find it. I'm like, I have looked everywhere. I cannot find it. And she goes, maybe someone broke into our house and took it.
That's probably
I go, really? Someone stole salad dressing from our house. I'm like, that's insane. She goes, well, I don't know what to tell you, Greg. And she hangs up. And I go, to prove a point, I'm going to call some people that I know, no one broke in. And so I call the guy that I think is the least likely person to have stolen this dressing. And so I call him and he's like, hey, what's up? I'm like, random question, man. Have you seen my salad dressing? And he's like, yup. Woke up this morning, was jonesing for it, hopped on the scooter, knew the code to your house, and now I'm crushing a salad. And I'm like, what?
That's a riot.
What kind of man steals another man's salad dressing? But then I thought to myself, what kind of salad dressing is so good that someone would steal it? So I called my wife back. I go, hey, you were right. So-and-so stole the salad dressing. And I'm going to quit my job and start a salad dressing company. Dead silence.
Yeah, she said, yeah.
And then she goes, that's the greatest idea I've ever heard. I have a weird feeling this is going to work. And so then I took the only business skill I had at the time, which was cold calling. And I started cold calling grocery stores to try and get a meeting. And
this was before you started making the stuff?
We weren't a thing.
Yeah.
I was just
concept, idea.
I go, I'm going to see if anybody wants this stuff.
This is before quitting the job.
This is before quitting the job.
Yeah.
I want to see if there's interest. I want somebody to try it that's not anyone that I know.
Yep.
And so day in and day out, 2 weeks straight, I called twice a day, every grocery store in town. And eventually a guy picked up and goes, it was a Friday. He goes, yes, bring it to me today at noon. I'm like, all right. So I call my mom. I'm like, I need you to make the greatest batch of salad dressing that has ever been made. She goes, why? I go, I got a meeting. I'm going to get us into a grocery store. We're going to be a thing. She goes, what are you going to put it in? You're not a company. There's no name. You don't have a bottle. I go, I don't care. I'm going to figure it out. So I ended up walking in with a Tupperware container with a red lid crunchy romaine lettuce, dressing on top, walk in, this boxer comes to me. He's my size. He's like 6'3", missing half of his teeth. And I'm like, this is the salad dressing buyer? And he's like, where's the product? And I just hold up this little container. I'm like, it's lunchtime. I brought you a salad. So he takes this piece of wet lettuce out of this Tupperware container, licks the dressing off, looks at me and goes, that's the greatest salad dressing I've ever had in my life. You need to call the regional office.
Wow.
And so went to the regional meeting. They gave me 200 pages of paperwork. I Googled my way into becoming a food manufacturer. And we officially launched actually today, May 5th, 2009.
Wow. All right. Hold that thought. Perfect time for a drink. We're going to come back. We'll take our first break right here. Everybody, we'll be back in about 1 minute with Greg Vetter.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Have you ever dreamt of being on the radio? Well, now is your chance. Be a radio show guest on the #1 ranked internet radio station and promote you and your business for free. Yes, you heard it, free. Business advertising right here on W4CY.com. Call 561-506-4031 now to get booked on one of our shows. That's 561-506-4031. Get your free advertising now.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
We are back with Greg Vetter. So how did you start manufacturing? You needed labels, you needed containers, you needed brand, you needed logos.
We needed everything.
Yeah.
I Googled a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the name came from my mom's nickname. So I was trying to think of good names.
I hope I pronounced it correctly. I don't know if I did.
Well, you'll hear the story in a second. Yeah. You can know. So initially I'm thinking of names that are all really stupid. You know, Greg Zone, Lemon Zingers, you know, Three Brothers. I'm trying to think of everything. It's all dumb. And then I say, Tessie Mays. I'm like, that sounds real. That sounds official. Mm-hmm. So my dad's from Southern Ohio, and he took my mom to a wedding when they were dating. Her name's Teresa. And I think Mary Henry was being married, you know, his cousin. And my mom walks up and is like, hi, I'm Teresa. And my dad's older brother goes, not in these parts, you're not. You're Tessie May. And then when email came out, she was always Tessie May at whatever email address was. So that's how we got the name. There was a guy I played lacrosse with, was a graphic designer, and I can draw. So I kind of sketched out what I wanted the label to be. He did it. I ordered these like really expensive 8.5 ounce rectangular bottles with corks, thinking it was going to last me a really long time, which it did not, which is another funny story in the book. And really it was just someone not taking no for an answer until the launch. Yeah. So it didn't matter what obstacle came. It didn't matter what document I didn't understand. It didn't matter. Literally nothing stood in my way. I was committed that at a minimum, I was going to try and launch this thing to see if a regular guy with no money, no food manufacturing background, no history of business in the family could take any product. It happened to be a really dumb one like salad dressing, and could do something with it. You know, could I actually live the American dream? Could anybody do that with a concentrated amount of effort and focus and desire and an unwavering spirit. And it turned out that that is possible. It's not easy. It's very painful, but it works. And so, yeah, it was just full commitment to get it done no matter what.
When did Matt and Brian get involved? Did you ask them? Did they see it and say, we want in, or tell us about that?
I made them help me a little bit in the beginning.
Yeah.
Everybody was kind of looking at me going, let us know if this works.
Yeah.
And if it does work, we'll help. So in the beginning stages, we were making it at a rib restaurant at night when they closed.
All right. That was my next question. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had to find a certified kitchen to get our manufacturing license. There aren't really a lot of places to do that. There are now, right? There's Union Kitchen in DC that's literally built exactly for this situation.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about too little, too late. I mean, I could have used that in 2009. I think he was still in college at the time, the guy that ended up being a founder of that.
Yeah.
But I convinced the owner of Adam's Ribs in Eastport to let me use his kitchen when they closed. And initially he didn't want to do it because he didn't want, the health department and the safety, whatever.
Yep.
And they're kind of doing additional audits and stuff. But I offered him free salad dressing for life, and I stalked him every day until he said yes. So he eventually gave in and let me do it. So they would close at 10. We'd be in there by 10:30. We'd lay out all of these metal bowls. We were hand making it in literally small batches, pouring it into the bottles, funnels in the bottles, hand labeling it, hand sealing it, putting it back in the boxes, loading it up, driving it into grocery stores every day. And so I did that for about a year.
How many stores and what was the volume like?
So we were actually crushing it. For the grand opening, this is how I knew it was meant to be. So we set up a demo. The store opened at like 10 a.m. or something. And the buyer told me to make 4 cases for the month. He's like, that's all we'll really need. So I set up a demo. I'm handing out samples. 4 cases are gone in 30 minutes.
Holy cow.
So I go to the guy. I'm like, hey, man, all that dressing's gone. He's like, there's more in the back. I'm like, no, it's gone. He goes, you sold 4 cases in 30 minutes. I'm like, yeah. He goes, go get more. I said, I have to make more. This was for the month. And so that night I made more, brought back 6 cases the next day, sold them in 45 minutes.
Wow.
And so for that week, we ended up setting a national sales record.
Wow.
And we sold 660 bottles in 5 days of one flavor.
Wow.
And that really showed me, okay, people love this. If they try it, they buy it. Let's see what we can do. I still had a full-time job. I was playing professional lacrosse. So I was very, very busy.
Married.
I was married.
Yeah.
No kids yet.
Yeah.
And that year we got into another 3 stores. So we were in like 4 stores total.
These are grocery stores like Kroger's or whatever, right?
Yeah, we were in Whole Foods.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we started with Whole Foods. And it just got to the point where I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I should actually quit my job for this. I don't know. I definitely can't do it alone. I wonder if my brothers want to help. I wonder if my wife wants to help. And so I sat down with my brother Brian and my wife, and I said, hey, here's what's going on. We either need to fully commit to this thing and put every dollar into it, quit our jobs and do it, or we need to shut it down. Because whatever this 50% in that I'm doing, it's not working. And so my brother quit his job. He wasn't really making any money anyway. So we paid him a whopping $500 biweekly.
Oh, yeah.
And my wife took on all of our procurement, supply chain planning stuff. And the next thing we know, we got into all the stores in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. And we were off to the races. So it was once everybody fully committed, we grew aggressively.
What were some of the innovations you talked about? No gum and all. I mean, I think it's all fresh ingredients, but there was one other I read. What were some of the things that you innovated?
Well, my mom only gave me one piece of business advice. And she said, Greg, do you remember Schlitz beer? And I said, well, not really, but yeah, I know of Schlitz beer. And she goes, everybody used to love Schlitz beer. And then they changed the ingredients and it sucked.
New
Don't
Coke.
do that.
Yeah.
And I go, okay. So after that initial success and everybody's just buying it, I go, well, we can't add gums. We can't add citric acid. We can't use dehydrated garlic instead of fresh garlic. How can we keep the formula exactly the same and figure out how to kind of re-engineer the manufacturing process so that we don't have to re-engineer the physical product?
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. We invented clean manufacturing. So we were the first people to be able to mass produce basically a handmade product. And we were able to do it to every grocery store in the United States.
So what did that look like?
Well, initially it looked like 100 bowls.
Mm-hmm.
And then it moved into gallon little kind of areas. And then it was 5-gallon Gatorade containers. And then it was 100-gallon stainless steel containers.
Wow, yeah.
And so we were just basically retrofitting little things for each product so that the product came out perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't any one thing outside of a complete commitment to not ruin the product.
Was it still one flavor, or were you?
It was one flavor for probably 3 years.
Wow.
And then we just started asking our customers, hey, what else do you want to see? And someone goes, you should put balsamic in it. We go, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And someone said, you should put pepper in it. We go, okay. And then somebody said, you should make an Asian dressing. And we go, okay. And so that's what we did then for the next probably 5 years. We kept coming out with like variations to the core offering. But then we decided to get into the creamy dressing game once we bought data. And we realized that 68% of salad dressing sales were ranch dressing. And we didn't have one.
Yeah.
And so we then invented the first ever dairy-free, clean, healthy, Whole30, keto, organic, blah, 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 blah.
I mean, right now you can buy everything. I've got celiac, so it's and I was only diagnosed about 5 years ago. Yeah. Thank God. But prior to that, there wasn't a lot of variety. You guys were early on.
Yeah, we were really the first clean bottled product on the market. So the Whole30 diet was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Yep.
So we were the first approved product on the Whole30 diet. And because it was only, 5 ingredients, 6 ingredients. So everything was gluten-free, everything was sugar-free, everything was vegan until we came out with the ranch dressing. Everything was any food tribe, whatever they needed.
Because it was simple.
We were it because it was so simple. So we got to participate in every trend, which then made us really the leader of the clean eating movement.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So talk about how you got into Sam's Club. I mean, that's when growth must have just been crazy, right?
Yeah. I mean, getting into Sam's Club was gigantic. Getting into Kroger nationally was gigantic. Getting into Walmart nationally was gigantic. Sam's Club was giant because we were just trying to sell them Caesar dressing. And they go, well, we're not going to put great dressing on a crappy salad. So why don't you make the entire salad?
All right. This is the
Ultra Fresh Foods.
Yeah.
And so we created this master kitting process so that we could ship them everything that they needed to make chicken Caesar salads or whatever. We ended up making multiple different salads with no food waste.
Minus the protein, or was the protein in it?
Everything was in there.
Wow.
So an employee at one of these stores would get a box. It would make 12 salads.
Mm-hmm.
There was an instruction on how to make every one, containers to put it in. It was direct from, we're in the Salinas Valley in California, so the shelf life was great. And then they tasted amazing because we were making the dressing and putting packets of the dressing in there. And so if you went into, a Sam's Club and bought a chicken Caesar salad for a family of 4, you were literally having the best chicken Caesar salad you've ever had. And so it really kind of opened our eyes to the applications of what we were capable of from a dressing perspective. Wow. So we started then getting into other things that aligned with clean food for everybody. That was kind of our concept. That's why we kept our price point where we did. We wanted it to be accessible to everybody.
We're going to take our second commercial. I just noticed the time. Everybody will be back in another minute with Greg Vetter.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
The YP.com website is your local search engine. If you're looking for a good restaurant, it can help you find the right one nearby with ratings and reviews. Or if your car breaks down, you can use the YP app to find the closest repair shop. Or maybe you're just looking for something to do on a Friday night. Well, it has great local coupons for all sorts of things in your area. No matter what, when, or where, if you're looking for something, YP Local Search can help you find it. So go to YP.com or download the app to search local, find local, and save local.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind: to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
We're back with Greg Vetter, innovator, disruptor, author of Undressed. We'll get to that shortly. But now you're at scale, or you're really at scale before, relative to before. More employees, bigger process, investors.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Lots of friends and family, lots of friends of friends. Never really got into kind of the venture world or the private equity world. We did have some high net worth individuals that had home offices. But yeah, lots of small checks, some big, but a lot along the way. Because again, this was before organic was a thing. You were talking to buyers and your product was organic. They're like, it's a fad. And you're like, I don't think it is a fad. Clean eating. They're like, it's a fad. I'm like, it tastes better. So don't even worry about organic or cleaning or whatever. It just tastes better. People like food that tastes good. No one's going to select something that tastes worse. That's not a thing.
This is the refrigerated category, by the way, right?
Well, it was kind of everywhere at the time. But I mean, salad dressing specifically. And so we really were just kind of trailblazing the situation. And lots of investors. We ended up, I think, at the end having 53.
Wow. At your height, how big were you in terms of sales and staff?
We were doing 70 million. And we had 100, probably between 150 and 200 in terms of manufacturing workers, salespeople, back office stuff.
And this is I think this question is somewhat humorous. You're rocking and rolling national awards. When did it get difficult? I'm sure it was difficult at many stages along the way, but when did it become problematic? When did things become problematic? What did that look like?
It really came down. So we navigated COVID really well. We had our own manufacturing plants and we took care of our people and they loved working for us. So it was all good. The supply chain crisis really started making everybody squirrely. We had just kind of made it through COVID. Everybody's investments are wacky and some are going down in a fiery blaze and we're still plowing through and things are going great. And then the supply chain crisis happened And that's really when everybody just started, giving their 2 cents of where we should be going, what we should be doing. Investors had differences of opinions to each other. So there started to be a lot of infighting.
Still private, but you have a board?
Yeah, we have a board.
Yeah.
So we're navigating that whole process. People start suing us,
Wow.
to try and gain control or change board seats. And the next thing we had to hire a professional negotiator to try and resolve some stuff. And we came to the conclusion like, hey, let's sell it. And I didn't think the timing was great because of the supply chain crisis, and you just didn't know what was really happening. But then we hired an investment bank, and they valued the business at between $300 and $500 million. And so everybody really started, they go, okay, this is how much I own. If it sells for 300, this is how much I'm going to make. And then the sales process did not go well. So when that didn't go well, all hell broke loose. And everybody just was basically positioning themselves to take over the entire thing. And then the next thing, we're spending $350,000 a month on 4 different lawsuits, and we're just fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
And we had to restructure, and then the restructuring process didn't go well at all because a couple people in it were experts and kind of ruined that process as well. And the next thing you know, this once just freaking rocket ship is just nose down on fire. And I'm sitting there in a conference room handing over this business to a private equity group for $4.5 million, thinking to myself, how did I get here? What is going on here?
You probably didn't answer it at that moment, but what did you figure out?
Well, I wrote a whole book on it.
Available on Amazon.
Yeah. Yep. And I read the audiobook.
Hold on. The full title is Undressed: The Unfiltered Story of My Failed American Dream and How It Led to Success. All right, go ahead.
What I reflected on was we did a lot right.
It sounds like it.
But we also did a lot wrong. And you can really boil it down to trusting the wrong people and not trusting your gut. And so I can go back to all of these critical points, these forks in the road, and I had an opinion of which way we should go. The board had a difference of an opinion, or an investor had a difference of an opinion. And, I fought kind of as hard as I thought was reasonable. But in retrospect, you go back and it's like, well, that was the moment. That was the moment we let them in too deep. That was the moment we allowed that negotiating point to go their way, thinking that they would be reasonable and, give us something in return. And in reality, I learned a lot about human behavior that I don't know if I wanted to learn, but I know a lot about now. And it's interesting to really kind of see what people are willing to do for greed and ego. I always kind of had this, you see movies and you're like, nobody's really that bad.
Greed is good.
Yeah. Well, it's like,
yeah.
And it turns out, people are willing to do anything,
and these are people you had some relationship with, whether it was first degree or second degree or maybe third degree, but these are people that you knew pretty well. Yeah.
That knew my family, and I had been to their Christmas parties and, had a boatload of conversations with, and it was that was bizarre. Because they knew the impact not only to me, but to everybody, and they just didn't care. And I think that part was, after it all happened, you look back and you go, wow, that's something. And so that's why my beard is gray.
Just for the audience, we shared a little moment before a moment. Yeah. We chatted briefly before we came on air.
Right.
So it must feel good to know that those products are still out. in some
Yeah.
way, right?
Yeah, it's nice to know we don't make it anymore.
Right.
So I don't know how the quality is. I don't buy it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But it is cool, especially now during this like massive, make America healthy again. And they're eliminating dyes and they're talking about thickening agents for the first time. And they're talking about natural flavors. And I'm like, yeah, we were doing that. And, a little too early, I guess, for that stuff. But
Maybe you could consult with RFK. Who knows? RFK Jr. Excuse me. Who knows? All right. So then you decide. All right. First, before we get to the book, I wanted to. You how long did it take you emotionally, physically, even to land after that?
I didn't really. I didn't dwell on it too long. I remember watching an interview of Ross Perot talk about Steve Jobs when he got fired from Apple and why he invested in Steve Jobs' next business. And he was talking about how here's a guy that was the most famous, wealthy young guy in the country, was just embarrassed beyond belief, and did not go into his basement and cry about it for 3 months. He picked up the phone and he called me for an investment for his next business. And I thought about that, and I go, okay, yeah, like there's no time to sit there and cry about it. I've got 4 kids. I'm coaching their sports. I have a wife. I have, other things that need to be done right now. And so I really didn't sit there and dwell on it. I think complete forgiveness, though, that came a little later. That took me a while. I really had to work through that.
So I have a similar story. I'm not going to get into it because this is your show. But I have a much smaller scale. But I had a bankruptcy, and I didn't even want to go into that town where the business was, just because it took me a long time to get over that. But I can hear what you're saying. So you get to the book. You decided to write the book. Tell us about it and sort of the lessons you learned and that you want to share.
Well, I wasn't even going to write a book. So I hired a performance coach to help me think through where I should be spending my time. I actually was getting a lot of opportunities. People were coming to me saying like, hey, I know it didn't work out, but I mean, you grew this thing to a giant, wonderful entity, and we want some help. And so this guy's super high level, his clients are pro athletes, hedge fund managers. Bon Jovi is one of them. And so I'm telling him the stories, and he goes, are these stories real? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you need to write a book. I'm like, why would I want to write a book about my greatest failure?
Yeah.
And he goes, because your outlook is unlike anything that I've seen. Like, you're still positive, you're still healthy, your kids still love you, your wife still loves you. Like, you have some insights through this pain that I think other people would really appreciate. And if you write it while the wounds are fresh, I think it will be more impactful for people, because nobody's out there doing that. Everybody either writes their story when they're at the end of their career and they romanticize the pain, or they haven't lived through anything like this and they just are just basically telling you, buy my program or do this or do that. And so I still wasn't convinced I should write a book, but I just started randomly putting words down on paper, really for my kids' sake. And next thing I know, I had 350 pages written, and here we are.
How long did it take?
Took me about a year to write it. It took about a year to edit and publish it.
Self-published?
Yeah.
So I noticed the homegrown.
Yeah. So I got a bunch of, I was looking at the hybrid publishing route just for the ownership, kind of an increased ownership in intellectual property.
Right.
And then I realized that the publishing process is very similar to just launching a product. And I wanted to own all of the intellectual property for it. And so I just went through the publishing process, and it was really interesting. And I found a great custom book publishing group where everything was basically a la carte. And I project managed it myself, and
Mhm.
it turned out great.
You hire an editor?
Multiple editors. So I had an editor kind of for the actual creation of the book. Then I had a grammatical editor in that whole workflow. And then I had a legal editor to make sure I wasn't going to
Nice.
go to
Yeah.
jail.
Yep.
So yeah.
And obviously a professional photographer, because I'm guessing you didn't stand behind that little box or whatever that you're holding there.
No, I actually did.
All right, that's good. I love it even more than that.
Yeah. Yeah. So my creative director, Mo
Yeah.
Taylor, he took the picture, and we actually broke all of those bottles in my barn.
Wow.
I didn't stand, in a sock on the physical broken glass.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we
Very cool. Very cool.
yeah.
Very creative. All right, it's available on Amazon. I'm going to give the title more time, then I got a couple other questions here. Undressed, the unfiltered story of my failed American dream and how it led to success. What success are we talking about now?
So I took all the principles and everything that I learned, and I wanted to see if it was right. I wanted to see if the principles would work. I didn't want to just be talking about stuff that couldn't translate. And so we applied them to the fresh food business and grew that exponentially. We applied it to one of the companies from our brand accelerator, which is a portable toilet business.
I saw that, yeah.
And so that's been growing exponentially. And we're launching a line of consumer packaged goods with it. So wipes and other things like that. We've done it with a vodka business.
Quenchers,
Yep. And then we're also doing a bunch of joint venture work with people that have developed companies or products, and they just can't get it done. And they want us to come in and basically just grow the whole thing. And so there's 3 or 4 of those. And it all works, so I think the part of the success that's so interesting, and I don't actually really like to use the word success, but everything that I ever wanted happened after I failed. And Joseph Campbell has this beautiful quote: "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." My cave was failure.
I saw that, and it was a question I skipped earlier. Fear of failure.
Yeah.
Is so many lessons there, but go ahead.
Yeah. And that's what fueled me. That's why I worked so hard. Everybody is ambitious. Everybody has goals. Mine was a mixture of, yes, I want to be successful, but I think I'm more scared of being a complete failure. And so it was interesting because in being pushed to the actual limit, you understand what you're capable of.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Anybody can win, but I want to see how you lose.
Mindset. So we teach, again, not trying to make this about me, but we teach in our sales consulting behavior, attitude, and technique. Behavior is make the dials. Technique is what you should sound like. Attitude is our belief system. Confidence. That's probably 70 to 80%.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. I mean, it's all in between the ears. And I coach kids sports, and I've done it since I was 23 years old.
Nice. Yep.
Before I had kids. And all those guys ended up being unbelievably successful and stay in touch with me to this day, which is really cool. But what you see is talent, skill. Yeah, it's important to a certain degree. The greats work this muscle out right here. They are working the brain. It is the mental discipline. It is the focus. It is the ability to metabolize pain and turn it into fuel. Learn from your failures. Don't make the same mistake twice, and keep moving forward against all odds.
That is awesome. That is awesome. We have to end right here. Who in the listening and viewing audiences should reach out? And that's GregoryVetter.com. Who should reach out and why?
Anybody that has a dream that they want to follow. because my story is about business, but it was really about following a dream.
Yeah. And the easiest way to reach out is the website, Gregory Vetter.
Yep, GregoryVetter.com, or on social media. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on LinkedIn. I have a social media team that checks everything. So if you send a note, I literally get it and I'll respond.
Fantastic. I'm sorry we went short. We didn't go short. It just was good, really good conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, and we appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much. Great.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And thanks everybody for listening and watching once again. This is a show about business and business challenges, successes too. If you've got concerns about the sales effectiveness of your company, whether your sales team is you or small or it's large, feel free to reach out to me, or you can drop me a note, kevin@winningbusinessradio.com. Our company is Winning Incorporated. We're part of Sandler Training. We develop sales teams into high achievers and sales leaders into true coaches and mentors. We're not right for everybody, but hey, maybe we should have a conversation. Thank you, as always, to producer and engineer Juan. Thank you, Juan, for another job well done. Be sure to join us next week, Monday, May 12th. My guest will be entrepreneur and rising star architect Matthew Arnold, founder of the boutique architectural practice Arnold & And. Until then, this is Kevin Hallinan.
You have been listening to Winning Business Radio with your host, Kevin Hallinan. If you missed any part of this episode, the podcast is available on Talk4 Podcasting and iHeartRadio. For more information and questions, go to winningbusinessradio.com or check us out on social media. Tune in again next week and every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time to listen live to Winning Business Radio on W4CY Radio, W4CY.com. Until then, let's succeed where others have failed and win in business with Kevin Hallinan and Winning Business Radio.